literary journal, and this evening we're celebrating the artwork of Marisol. Before we introduce her, she's going to give a talk right in this space. That way she can refer to some of the artwork. I would like to introduce and say thank you to Billy Chabot, the Executive Director of the Stewart House Museum, for having us here this evening, and particularly as part of their June 1st Friday.
Thank you, Bill. I want to thank everybody for coming out and supporting Aduna and supporting Marisol and our First Friday efforts here in August.
Right now, I'm sure you all have been in situations where somebody said, oh, this person doesn't need an introduction, and then they go on and on with the introduction. Well, the introduction to the next person is on the walls. Look at the walls, you get to know who she is. I'm pleased to introduce to you Marisol.
So I just want to say thank you guys for coming. This is really exciting for me. This is kind of my coming out party. A lot of people didn't really know what I did here in town. I'm actually a hypnotherapist, a certified energy therapist, and a Reiki master teacher. And I have been for over 11 years. I had several practices in the Bay Area, in Sedona, in South Carolina, and here now in New York. And I usually go by a word of mouth thing. And so because what I do is a little bit, you know, personal and definitely kind of a transformational thing, it's usually a one-on-one thing. And so what I'm doing here is my cathartic release of what I witnessed some of my extraordinary clients going through. So again, my name is Marisol. Most people in town call me Mari. I was a philosophy and religion major. My emphasis was in metaphysics. So I'm really wooed by the existential questions, you know, what is time, what is reality, where do we go after, and all this kind of, you know, heavy stuff that most people don't really want to think about for the most part. So I'm going to give you just a couple definitions, just in case you're not familiar with hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is, for me, slightly different than hypnosis. Most people have heard of it in terms of things like quit smoking or weight management. And surprisingly, those two things typically open the biggest doors. Most people come in and expect, well, just tell me to quit smoking. It's a bad habit, I just want to stop. And what you're really doing is you're scratching the surface to your subconscious mind. And in hypnotherapy, as opposed to hypnosis, we're actually looking at root causes. Why are we doing this? And then we're tweaking that one little pattern at the root and coming back out and seeing what happens with change. So that's kind of what hypnotherapy is. The word hypnagogic typically throws people off, and so my expression or description of what hypnagogic, like doing hypnagogic art or somebody going into hypnagogic state, which is what we would do in the session, is really kind of that in-between place right before you fall asleep. We all experience that kind of out-of-body thing when you're driving your car and you're thinking about writing out your check or paying your bills or what you're getting from the grocery store and you miss your exit or you're doing something else. That kind of talking to yourself in your mind, that is actually a hypnagogic state. You're not here in the now, in the present moment. So these altered states, there are a series of altered states, but what we do in trance, or what we work through in trance, is we introduce your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. And I don't know if anybody in the room has been experiencing this, but a number of my clients have been experiencing time speeding up and things moving a lot faster and technology moving even more faster, hard to keep up. So there's this push-pull with self to try to balance out. When we have such high technology, we really want to have this sort of high-touch thing that comes with us. And most people these days are now looking in their smartphones or looking at their iPads or doing the things on the computer. There's so little eye contact with people, and for most of us, we've heard the old adage, eyes are the window to the soul. So what you're really doing here is, ironically, the painting itself are the veils that we do to cover up. The exhibit here is called Textures and Light. And for me, that's exactly what I work with. I am the kind of person who will walk into a room, and because I read energy and the in-between, I typically can point out the pink elephant that's hiding in the room, which can be uncomfortable for some people, because I really just kind of walk over and sort of poke that, like, what's really going on with you? And some people don't really know, because we're out of touch with that soul speak. How does one communicate what you identify with? So for me, This work, prayer paintings or soul sketches, sort of manifested from working with patients who are working through huge transformation. They are typically going through massive, powerful identity, I don't want to say crisis or emergency, but it's emergence. We're shifting and we're evolving. The whole thing happens to revolve around a lens. You know, how does one view the world? Our identity typically shapes that lens, and that lens is something that we can actually program and change so that we're open and not so closed down. And if ever there was a time to be more authentically yourself, I strongly feel that this is the time. We're in 2012, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the Mayan prophecies, everyone's talking about the end of the world.